This is George from High Tech Legion. You know, when you're looking at liquid cooling, there are a lot of things that go into directly affecting the performance of a liquid cooler. And if you're putting together your own loop, you're really going to be looking at these things, you know, the flow rate of the pump. You're going to be looking at the materials of the radiator, the FPI of the radiator, you know, the fans. You're going to want to match up to that FPI to get, you know, optimal performance, keep your noise down, you know, design it, whether you're going to use high RPM or low RPM fans. You're going to choose a tubing size, you know, according to resistance and, of course, you know, as well as looks. But, you know, when it comes to CLCs, it becomes an entirely different matter. You're basically getting, you know, the same block and pump with, you know, a lot of the CLCs that are out there. If it's not the same block and pump, they're very, very similar, especially the flow rates of the pump, you know, and the tubing that's used. So also the designs of the radiators is almost identical on all of them. You know, an exception, of course, being the Zalman. But in general, you're looking at an aluminum radiator with very, very high FPI that needs high RPM fans to get air moving through it. So basically, you know, when you're looking at this, it comes down to he who has the most surface area and the highest output fans is going to win. So today we're going to take a look at two pieces that are larger than your standard 240 millimeter radiators. We're going to take a look at the Kraken X61, which sports a dual 140 millimeter radiator, and the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate with a 360 millimeter radiator. Going back a couple of years ago, the X60 was actually the first CLC to win a High Tech Legion Editor's Choice Award. And it still actually sits at the top of cooling charts and is arguably the best liquid CLC cooler on the market. So why mess with a good thing? Well, the X61 actually doesn't do much in the way of components. What it actually does is it tweaks out the X60 itself. Now, getting a quick look here. First, I want to point out right off the bat, the X61 comes completely pre-filled, maintenance-free, has a 6-year warranty. So, you know, you don't need to top off anything of that nature. You don't need to fill it out of the box. It is a CLC closed-loop liquid cooler. So the loop is closed. There's no way to fill it, even if you want to. No way to take it apart. It is what it is. Comes out of the box, ready to go. 6-year warranty, which is industry-leading. So no maintenance on it for 6 years. And NZXT is going to stand behind it. It's going to last for 6 years. So with that out of the way, let's get a quick look at the box. Move the cooler out of the way. And of course, you've got a picture of it right on the front with the NZXT logo. It is an RGB LED on the block and pump assembly itself with the NZXT logo and a little design right around it. Moving over to the back to look at some of the features. And we see 280 millimeter radiator is 36% larger than a 240. Most people don't realize how much larger a 280 is than a 240, and the X60 took great advantage of it. And of course, we're going to see it here again with the X61. Again, aluminum radiator, same one we saw in the X60, 24 FPI. So is a little dense, needs some air through it to get it working. High performance variable speed pump and copper cold plate. This is the first variable speed pump we've seen in the CLC. It's 2400 RPM to 3600 RPM. So when you're idling, it's going to be a little quieter. So you're not going to really have to deal with pump noise as much as you would without the variable speed. Integrated hue and digital control with CAM compatibility. So you do have compatibility with CAM software. If you download the CAM software Basic Edition, plugging in the Kraken will unlock the Kraken features in the CAM software itself. So you not only get control over the Kraken X61, but you've got a really nice little piece of software which gives you all of the status indicators on your case and gives you a little more control, and also allows you to go in from outside on your smartphone or another computer, log in, and actually see what's going on with your computer. New FX140 V2 PWM fans, 800 to 2000 RPM. They were designed specifically for radiators, large tower support with extended 16-inch tubing. So the longer tubing is going to make it easier to mount in larger towers. Completely sealed system backed by an industry-leading 6-year warranty, just like we were talking about. Now, if we look over at the specs real quick, like I say, 2400 to 3600 on the pump, as far as RPM, digital cam software, the FX140 V2 fans, 2 of them included. You can do push-pull. The radiator is actually threaded for push-pull if you decide to do it. 800 to 2000 RPM. You get a whopping 106 CFM out of them with 1.97 millimeter H2O of static pressure. Now that static pressure number might look a little low, but you have to remember you're talking about a 140 millimeter fan, not a 120. Static pressure on 140s does tend to be lower, so you've got a good amount of static pressure there. The radiator, of course, 140 by 2, and it's 27 millimeters thick, which is exactly what we've always seen in Acetec made units. What you basically have, Acetec does make basically a singular radiator, or radiator that they'll put into different configurations for different companies. NZXT, of course, with the 280 millimeter radiator, but it's still the same aluminum 24 FPI 27 millimeter thick radiator. So, taking a look, like I say, same one as the X60, as we saw, with the 2 acting reservoirs on the ends, trap any air that might happen to be in the system. 16-inch rubberized tubing, so you don't need to worry about bleeding or leakage or anything of that nature. Everything's sealed up, like I say. And pump itself, as you look, you've got the pure copper cold plate. Thermal interface material is pre-applied, so you don't need to worry about that. You can, of course, change it out to anything you like. Now, one of the things I like that I see here that NZXT is doing, they're actually putting the mounting kit and ring on there right out of the box. And also, as you notice, there's 2 notches on the mounting ring. Most of the Acetec made units don't have this. They're actually a little bit different. And NZXT's actually changed the mounting kit a little bit and made it a lot easier. And we'll get a look at the rest of it, when we do the mount. Over on the other side, of course, like I say, the NZXT logo with the light up and all of your cables. The NZXT X61 does use a USB cable, which you typically don't see, which allows it to interface with the cam software. 1 SATA power in, and your fans plug directly in to the pump itself, and 1 3-pin also for the LED. So some pretty simple wiring. And the other thing being, NZXT always does really nice sleeving on all their wiring, and if you've ever seen their extension kits, they do some very, very nice sleeving. And it's present here, all black to the ends, except for the USB, of course, which has a little bit of color at the end, but going to be very, very nice looking inside the case. Now, getting into the included parts. So you see the 140 millimeter fan. Very, very actually kind of a unique design on the edges, and does have rubberized feet on all 4 corners on both sides. Once again, nice sleeving on the cable with 4-pin PWM connector. Interesting and kind of unique design here that NZXT has used with these fans. Kind of interesting to look at and easy to mount. So, and like I say, 800 to 2000 RPM, PWM controlled, 1.97 millimeters of static pressure. Now let's take a look at the mounting kit. NZXT has gone completely differently than everybody else has with the Acetec mounting kit. First off, you get your instruction manual. Once again, no words, just pictures. And it says for a more detailed manual, just download it at the NZXT site. I would definitely recommend you do that because, like I say, there's just no words whatsoever. And the manual is a little hard to make out. It's gray on gray with most of the parts, so it does get a little tough. And also, the AMD manual is also in the download guide. It is not inside of the box. Now, I know that a lot of AMD people, why are we always second-class citizens, and this one actually does come set up for an Intel mount, not for an AMD mount. However, it is compatible with AM2, AM3, FM1, FM2, and it does have the included hold-down plate, as you see here, and you'll use your factory backplate off your motherboard. Now, otherwise, you've got your 2011 kit here, your standoffs. You've got your standoffs for AMD, Intel 1155, 56, 1150, 1366, 775, all in here with the bolts, or I should say the nuts to hold it down. Intel backplate. Once again, we're seeing the plastic backplate that we see with all the Acetec, but this time we do at least see that it's got the sliding parts, so you're not going to have to string through the nut into the backplate, which is what we've seen in the past, but never did like this plastic backplate. They do have a tendency of breaking. Be very careful with the backplate. And finally, bag of screws and washers. You've got your long screws for connecting the fan to the radiator, as well as short screw for radiator to the case. Also, if you're going through the fan into the case, or I should say, mounting the fan against the case and going through the fan into the radiator, you'll use the long screw. So really nice kit here that we see. Like I say, very, very different what NZXT has done. Once again, just be really careful with the backplate. The plastic backplate does have a tendency of cracking. Now, starting at the installation, typically I do show exactly what is in the installation manual. I'm not going to do so in this particular case, just because the NZXT manual actually asks you to mount the pump first before you even put on the fans. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're going to be working with a tethered radiator at that point, which is going to make it more than just a little inconvenient to work with, shall we say. So first thing, let's put on the fans. Obviously, you want both your fans facing the same direction. Ideally, you always want your fans exhausting and blowing through the radiator. And also, ideally, you want it set up as an exhaust. Reason for that being, people will argue with you, oh, but you'll get 2 degrees better temperature if you set it up as an intake. Well, yeah, you might get 2 degrees better under extreme loads and whatnot. There's no arguing, that's the case. But you're also going to be blowing hot air into your case, and that's just really never a good idea. You're going to be frying the rest of your components to try and gain a couple of degrees just on your CPU temps under extreme loads. So you're definitely better off always mounting. You want it as a push through the radiator and mounting the fans as an exhaust. Something else to keep in mind is your fan cables. Think about which way you're going to be hanging down, actually hanging the radiator itself, and which side the tubes are going to be on. This way you make sure you have your fan cables in the back so they're not dangling in front of the radiator itself. So then obviously just 4 long screws with a washer and put your fans into place. Next, I'm going to want to mount the radiator into the case. Now, I can't stress enough, NZXT's got a really nice compatibility chart on the site for the X61. The 280 is a bit different than a 240. You really need to watch out here. Now, I'm actually mounting in a Fantex Enthoo Lux, and it's got 60 millimeters of clearance between the top of the case and the motherboard. And, we're coming in a little over 52 millimeters with the X61. See, but the only concern is going to be the 4-pin, or 8-pin, I should say, on the motherboard, the CPU power. So you just need to really make sure that you check, make sure you've got a case that the X61 is going to fit in. Then we'll get it into place. And of course, just very simply drop the short screws with a washer through the top and screw the radiator into place. Make sure you use all 8 screws. And secure it firmly. And with the radiator up there, as you can see, good looking in the case, and we can move on to mounting the pump and block. Moving on, start with the back plate, and as you can see, the 4 corners, the nuts do slide side to side. You're going to want them to the outside for 1366, and you're going to want to slide them in towards the middle for 1155 or whole 1150 series or 775, and going to go against the back of the motherboard with the pin sticking through the motherboard with the 2 sides on the sides, so your larger open area like so. So we'll go around the back, put it into place, take our standoffs, and they're actually asymmetrical So both thread on, it's the same thread on both sides. So it doesn't matter which way you put them, and you just want to hand tighten them. And don't be freaked out, the back plate is a tiny bit loose even after your 4 standoffs are on. It will move. It's not going to be completely tight. Against the motherboard. And the block will actually pull it tight. So that in place. We can now take our block. Otherwise, remove the plastic. It comes with the pre-applied thermal interface material, as you see here. And of course, if you're going to be using other thermal interface material, make sure you clean it very well and clean your CPU very well. And for holes, obviously we're using the inside holes for the 1150 series, 1366 in the outside hole, and just put it into place right over the standoffs. And 4 large nuts go on the 4 corners. And get all 4 started. And then you can then finish tightening them in an X pattern. They do have a stop, so you do stop tightening when they stop. And it's not a high pressure mount, so you can actually do it by hand in most cases. And got that on. And like I say, just tighten until they stop. You can take out your screwdriver, do it by hand, and you will distinctly feel the stop. Like I say, it's not a high pressure mount, so don't expect there to be a lot of resistance when you reach the stop. When you feel it stop, just stop tightening. And just that simple, it's in. Now we just need to wire it up. Like I said, the X61, pretty simple wiring. SATA connection for power, USB connection, which will go to a USB header on your motherboard, which allows for the control and the interface. Unfortunately, I'm going to run it right around the front of the video card right now. Your fans plug in to the fan headers right next to the SATA cable, and you've also got a 3-pin. You want to plug this into something that's going to constantly have 12 volts. It's for your LED. So we'll get everything plugged in, and we'll throw it on the bench and throw some heat at it and see how it performs. The Kraken X61 works in conjunction with NZXT's CAM software. Now, it's free download from the NZXT site. After you've installed it, you can go to Manage, and you'll see the Kraken will actually light up. Typically, you'd only have the basic functions until you actually install the Kraken, confirm that it's working, and you can go over, and you're greeted with the Kraken control screen. Now, in the middle, you see here you've got your core temp, or a CPU or GPU if you happen to be using the Kraken on a GPU, as well as the liquid temp. Down the bottom here, you've got the fan speed, which can be manually controlled up and down, as you see. It'll go down to 40%, no lower than that, and the fan and pump speed will go up and down accordingly. Now, that can also be controlled. You've got a silent fan mode, which is custom, or I should say, built into the software, as well as a performance mode, which is going to run the fans a bit higher. And you also have a custom mode where you can actually set all of your fan points yourself, and you can add as many points as you like, as you see up and down the line, and create the curve that actually is going to suit you correctly for your system. Now, going back, we're just going to put it into silent mode. Down the bottom, you've got your notifications that connects to the internet, benchmark is disconnected from the internet, etc.
Kraken fluid temperature is too high. Anything to do with the Kraken is going to be down here, um, as you see. Now, moving over to the right, you've got your core temperatures separated out, and you can choose heat or load for all 4 cores, or your GPU, or you can show your fan speed of your CPU or GPU over here. And all of this can be monitored in minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, however you'd like to see it. So you do get some very nice control using the CAM software on the Kraken. So you can really set up the Kraken to suit your needs, especially as far as the fan and pump speeds. Now, the final thing over here, you've got the LED color, and bring that up, brings up the lighting effects, standard. You can change it to breathing so that the LED appears to be breathing, blinking, or you can set it to rainbow mode and set up a high temperature warning at whatever temperature you so desire. And when you're in one of the standard breathing or blinking, just choosing the color will allow you to set the RGB color or choose one of the preset colors up top. So, like I say, very good flexibility, and the CAM software is actually very, very simple to use.
Taking a look at the numbers, first off, obviously on the 4770K stock, as you can see, we're looking at some very high-priced, top of the line coolers here. You see very, very little disparity, on a stock CPU. The one number that does stick out a little bit on the X61, that 56 dB, is actually quieted down a little bit from the X60. So that's a really nice thing to see. And it's not completely out of control like something like the H100, which is coming in 12 dB higher. But of course, you're not buying a $90+ CPU cooler to run at stock speeds. So now we're going to bump it up to 4.4 gigahertz and 1.206 volts with max fan. And as you can see, the X61 does a really nice job here, bettering the CryoRig R1 Ultimate, which is the best air cooler we've tested, basically keeping up with the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate in a slightly smaller form factor and, different form factor. Again, we see really a great job here, of course, bettering the H100i, which is only a 240 millimeter, and the SwiftTech H220X, it's not going to keep up with that. Even though it's 240 millimeter, it is an open loop. Now, we're quieting things down. We're going to keep everything under 40 dB, and taking a look at the stock numbers under 40 dB, as you see, really the X61's not too affected. You can keep it nice and quiet, 1440 RPM on the fans, and you're going to get very good performance on the stock CPU. But once again, like I say, the stock CPU is really not going to be a challenge for any of these coolers. So now bumping that up once again to 4.4 gigahertz, we see, not a lot of roll off with the X61. Again, it does a really nice job, under 40 dB, keeping the temperatures, once again, keeping up with, the Water 3.0, CryoRig R1 Ultimate, and, absolutely bettering, the H100i. So, really doing a very, very nice job. Performance to noise on the X61 here is actually, very, very good. Really happy with it, and very impressive showing. Okay, so let's take a look at exactly what we've got here with the NZXT Kraken X61. Like I say, the X60 was really a very, very special CLC when it was first introduced, going back a couple of years ago. It was the first 280 on the market and really had cooling prowess. It was above and beyond what we were seeing from the 240s or any other CLC on the market at the time. Now, that still stands, true that, the X60, gets looked at differently, and the X61 is obviously going to follow suit. I've always made an exception, when talking about the X60, that, it doesn't, respond like a normal CLC just because of sheer, cooling power. So now, looking at the X61, it's not really a huge upgrade from the X60, and NZXT doesn't present it as one. You're using the same radiator, same tubing, same cold plate. So right there, you've got the basic elements of the X60, exactly the same. Little change in the fans, which we saw worked out well. Little less noise with, very, very similar performance to the X60. So you get, a little bit of a drop in noise. So nice little change there. Where we do see a change, though, is in the pump and the software associated. The pump is now a variable speed. It's ranges from 2400 to 3600 RPM. Whereas the old X60 pump was actually set speed, full speed all the time. Now, I don't really see the logic in making it a variable speed pump. If anything, you're cutting down flow at, lower fan speeds, which is going to have, a great impact on performance there. So, you're giving up performance at the quieter fan speeds, and really it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You're taking a pump that doesn't move enough water in the first place and then downclocking it for some reason. I don't know if NZXT did it thinking it was a noise issue or whatnot, but I mean, really, I never saw a noise issue, nor have I seen, any complaints of noise issues with the X60 pump or the Ace Tech pumps, in general. So, I find that a little curious. The software is very functional. Like I say, good control, the CAM software. It is a little bloated, does have a couple of bugs here and there, but, it's going to be like any software. They've had a couple updates, getting better and better all the time. So now, I'm going to give the Kraken X61 a High-Tech Legion Gold Award. Right now it is, standing, very tall, right on top of the CLC market, right there with the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate. But I do think that the NZXT has a nicer install kit. I think the 280 millimeter is a little bit easier to navigate. The software, like I say, is going to be entirely up to the user. Do you like it? Do you not like it? It's all going to be a matter of preference. But like I say, I do think the X61 is a really fantastic piece. Great, and good buy for the money also at $119. If you're looking, strictly to go to a CLC, at $119, great buy. Going to give you a top end performance, and once again, winner of a High-Tech Legion Gold Award.